Good afternoon, everybody. Let's see. Tell me the tricks. Here we go.
Slow.
Yeah, very slowly. I'm the CEO, and my name is Boaz Yaari. I'm the CEO and founder of ShareGain, and we are a fintech company based here in London. Have an R&D center in Israel. Not 70 people, but more 17. Nevertheless, growing. 2 years, 2.5. Yeah. Now, slowly. So our story begins 2.5 years ago with two tenacious Israelis on a mission to open up and democratize a $2 trillion market called securities lending. It continues with English capital markets expertise, meeting Israeli tech talent to form what we call a truly global and transformative fintech solution. It also incorporates a beautiful story with Israeli investors led by the Rekanati family, and coupled with joining forces with European and American investors to support us and join our vision. Now, when we start getting into the nitty-gritty of what actually ShareGain is all about, let's start firstly with the basics. So we all own property, or most of us own property, and we know that we can rent it out. That's easy. Thanks to the sharing economy, we can now also rent out different stuff. We can rent out our time, our money, and our cars. That's fantastic. But did you know that we all have the right to rent out our stocks, bonds, ETFs? And not only renting them out, but we can do so while still enjoying from their appreciation and retain the rights for dividends receiving from them. Now that sounds fantastic. It's a shocker. To most of us, it's new, and the novelty of it is breathtaking. But in capital markets, there's a 40-year-old ecosystem that's called securities lending that does exactly that. Now let's talk a bit about the basics. So you're probably asking yourself, what is he talking about? Who wants to borrow a stock? Well, a borrower wants to borrow a stock to facilitate different trading strategies. Short selling, arbitrage strategies, and avoiding settlement issues. And when a borrower basically borrows a stock, he pays a fee for it, what we call a lending fee. The lending fee is determined on supply and demand dynamics and is paid to the lender, which is the beneficial owner of that stock. The lender, in turn, receives the lending fee and have the absolute right to terminate that loan and recall it at any given time. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as I said earlier, securities lending is a niche. But it's a $2 trillion niche that last year generated $9.2 billion to its participants. And who are those participants that are enjoying from these revenues? They are no other than our pension funds, insurance companies, and the asset managers that manage our money. In fact, when we call securities lending as probably the last bastion of in capital markets where the access to private investors is largely restricted. Now, up until 2.5 years ago, I was a part of this ecosystem, a portfolio manager that needed to borrow stocks, bonds, ETFs to facilitate different strategies. And I and many others like me, quickly became very frustrated by this opaque ecosystem that still very much operates like it did 40 years ago, mostly relationship-based. Most trades are done over the phone. Very limited transparency in terms of supply, in terms of pricing, and very laborious processes that are driven by systems that were designed ages ago. So I, being an Israeli, couldn't take no for an answer. And the nature of curiosity hit me, and I started rolling up my sleeve and getting into the nitty-gritty, asking questions, getting into the nitty-gritty of this ecosystem. And when I thought that I understood the problem, I went to find a solution. And when there was no alternative solution in sight, we went and built one. And what do we do? So we understood very quickly that this ecosystem can't be changed from within, but rather it needs a fresh approach that introduces new participants in this ecosystem and introduces new standards, the higher standards as we call, of transparency, automation, and ease of use. We also knew that that would be only available, with similar attributes to the digital services that we like and use today, the Uber, the Airbnb, the Googles of this world. And acknowledging that securities lending is very much ancillary to what we do in terms of long-term objectives, we build the system for lenders, for stockholders that are not traders. So you can actually enjoy from the hidden values of securities lending, but remain as passive as you wish to this process, but retain still full control and full transparency. So who's the new participants that we're bringing into this ecosystem? Well, congratulations, it's all of us. The true beneficial owner of stocks, of bonds, of ETF. We all hold them in one shape or form, and we would all love, and I'm a bit maybe generalizing, enhancing our returns on them and receiving a new stream of revenue regardless of how it performs. Now, probably now asking yourselves, well, that sounds great, but it's probably too good to be true. So what's the catch? Well, there's no catch. Institutional investors, the most conservative in the world, have been doing it for the last 40 years. And they're doing it as a common practice. And we, in ShareGain, as we see it, private investors and family offices who are long-term investors can very much look at this as a pure alpha addition to any of their investment. And why is it pure alpha? Because A, most importantly, receiving a new stream of revenue on assets you already own, i.e. sweating your assets a bit harder. B, you can retain all economical rights. You retain still the dividends, appreciation. The only thing that you are forfeiting is voting rights for that period. C, high liquidity. You can terminate any loan and recall the stock at will, and within a couple of days you get the stocks back. And lastly, every loan is over-collateralized, up to 105% from the value of that loan, mark to market daily. I know I'm using a lot of buzzwords or a lot of terms that may be familiar to you or not. But what we're trying to say is, and this has been in the press, this is one of the most easiest and secure transactions out there for the past 40 years, but sadly enough, it's not really well known outside of its participants. So lastly, if you think about it and you say to yourself, okay, how do I unlock this hidden value? Well, it's very easy. We're not a bank and we're not a broker with an app. We are simply a technological solution. We act like an add-on feature to your account, and once you onboard to ShareGain, we start continuously operating in the background, optimizing your portfolio, but you have full control and transparency, be it in your mobile or your desktop dashboard. And it's all about, how simple is that? Well, you just onboard to ShareGain, and we do the rest.
So I'm very familiar with stock lending. I'm a hedge fund manager at Borrow.
Perfect.
Stock, and hopefully I'm not getting too ripped off. I think this is really exciting.
Thank you.
The gatekeepers are often the brokers.
True.
So the brokers have the capital, meaning the investment advisors control relationship with the client who owns the shares, that investment advisor would want to ensure that that same brokerage firm, the prime brokerage group, generates the borrow fees. How do you get the mind share of the actual owner of those securities, which is the client of that investment advisor, to go to your website and sweat the asset?
It's a great question. So when we look at a bank today, we say to ourselves, let's take a UK bank, let's take Barclays for instance. We say Barclays is a bank, but essentially Barclays is not a bank. It's a holding company of four big different silos, totally ring-fenced from each other. You've got the custodian, you've got the prime broker / broker dealer in the US, and you've got, for instance, the Barclays Wealth. Now, within Barclays Wealth, there are billions and billions of assets currently sitting idle that cannot be tapped internally. Because of regulation, only the incumbent players, which are the institutional players that actually work within that prime brokerage, can actually tap into the existing ecosystem. All the rest are siloed and ring-fenced. And if we talk about now the law of large numbers, and this is capital markets at its best, what we talk about all the time is this $2 trillion on loan. But that comes from about, which is on loan, i.e., on average on loan 365 days a year, the value of the securities. That comes from about 45 to 50 billion dollars worth, which is the value, trillion, which is the value of listed, of institutional holdings globally. But little do people know that the value of listed securities globally is 80 trillion. So you're left with a delta of about 30 trillion, which we call the untappable, with the analogy of the unbankable. This 30 trillion currently sits idle globally, collecting dust instead of collecting income. And this is the market that we're tapping. It's the private wealth managements, it's the retail investors, it's the private banks that cannot actually do it, be it because of regulation or be it because of technology. So we've created a technological solution that is topped off by a very unique business solution that gives you the best of breed, the best of both, in a very easy and automated process.
You are the marketplace?
We are what we call a differentiated marketplace. So we bring in the Boaz, which now we currently work with tier 1 banks, and we bring in the lenders. But as we said, we do not believe, because it's very much ancillary to what we do, that you would actually go and start trading your portfolio, because it's neither, most of us have neither the time nor the expertise. So what we've built is the first virtual agent. For our lenders who are actually our customers, we do everything for you. You just set in and with a tick of a box and a slide of a few scales, you set up your own securities lending program, if you will, and from there on, Sharing just operates within that boundaries, and you get full control, full transparency, and we would do all the work for you. Now, we're very much aligned with our lenders because we take only one fee, no management fee, no fixed fees, no onboarding fees. If you lend something, you receive lending fee, we take a fee split, a cut, a success fee from it, full stop, that's it.
Just so I understand, say a hedge fund manager is looking for borrow on a stock.
Yeah.
Banks with his prime broker is Barclays.
Yeah.
He calls prime brokerage Barclays and says, I'm looking for borrow on stock ABC.
Yeah.
Would the Barclays then call you and you would source the equity to borrow for them?
So two things. Firstly, what they do now, they don't call. Everything they look at, they go into our exactly. They go they go into and they see our sharing pool, and within that pool they have the availability, and they can what we call a 3-click loan, and within 3 clicks they get a loan done. Now, what we do also is for instance, big hedge funds that are both lender and a borrower. We don't borrow directly from them, but if you are a lender in the system, we give you the dashboard yourself, so you have always availability to the pool. So you can actually go and then do it very smartly and see, this is what's going on. This is what actually Barclays is seeing. I want that. This is the fees. Let's go. Pick it up.